about eating with the hand. This is what I wanted to tell you. I still eat with my hand. I don't use the fork and the spoon. It seems a wise man went to England in the good old days, in the 30s, to pass his ICS. And after passing ICS, they were interned in an English home to learn English methods, because the Englishmen, people wanted Indians to learn their habits. So this man was staying with an old lady who insisted on him eating with the fork and the spoon. One day he told her, "Madam, I use my hand, which I've been using ever since I was born, and I love to use that." Then she said, no, don't use the hand. It's a dirty hand. She said, "No, madam, I washed my hand with soap and water before eating. It's a very clean hand." Then she said, no, look at my fork and spoon. They are cleaned, sterilized. Then he said, "Madam, your fork and spoon have gone into many mouths. My hand has gone only into my mouth. So it's very clean hand, and I'm using the hand. And I even now use the hand." Now we know in Western science also that when you eat with the hand, the bioenergy gets conveyed onto the food that you eat, and food absorption, food assimilation, and food digestion is much better than eating with fork and spoon. So you see the science of our ancient wisdom, which is very good. Unfortunately, we have a holier than thou attitude towards us, that, and we don't consider that as important. When we come to know the real truth, we will be so shocked to know it's otherwise. That is, our science of yore is more scientific than the Western science of RCTs and reductionism. Reductionism depends on Darwin's theory and Mendel's theory, etc. of evolution. But the holistic theory of evolution is it's the environment that makes us evolve. And there's a lady called Elizabeth Sartoris who has done a lot of work on environmental evolution. And evolution is environmental, not genetic. And you are what you are because of your environment. You are what you are because you are brought up in your own environment of your parents. Suppose you inherit your parents' disease, it's not because of genes, but because you inherit your parents' good or bad habits. Supposing your parents have been eating bad food and you continue to eat the same bad food, you inherit the diseases that they had. Supposing you don't continue the same habit and same environment, you can change it. So changing the environment, you can change your future. So environment is the evolution and not genes. Now we have come to epigenetics, where the genes also can be changed with your consciousness. In quantum medicine, consciousness matters. And you will be surprised to know that when we deal with others, our consciousness interacts. That is why they have found even in animal studies, when a woman does a study, woman researcher does a study, vis-a-vis a man researcher doing a study, the results could be as different as 30 to 40%. If that were so, our idea of interacting with our own selves and our friends and relatives should also have an influence on our future, on our health, and our longevity. So it all makes sense when you come back and think positively about our past. You will be surprised to know that it is very, very interesting to know that our science is as important, as great, if not more greater, than the Western reductionist science. Only thing is, we have not thought about it. We have not thought seriously about it. We don't respect it, and we don't venerate it. We venerate only the new Western science that we have learned in our schools and colleges. And as a matter of fact, you will be surprised that many of these scientific thinkings in the West are money funded. Now, for example, I was telling you about cholesterol study, Ansel case. Ansel case changed the data by cutting off countries to fit the thing into a positive study only because he wanted to please his funders. And a study by Ioannidis. John Ioannidis is a researcher he is a Greek researcher who has done a lot of work, who has shown that our research is so bad and so reductionist that it doesn't really get us the correct answer, the truth. Truth is a rarity. Truth is a casualty. And truth takes a longer time to be appreciated because truth is bitter. While, as Churchill very rightly said, while truth still has time to pull up its pants, falsehood and mystery would have done 2 rounds of this world. So that's how falsehood and mystery will go around. Truth will remain back. And Eastern science of yore is the truth. and Western science is only mystery and falsehood. Many times it's not even near the truth. At the same time, Western medicine has done a lot of good, but it requires the help of Eastern wisdom to make it whole for all kinds of seasons, all diseases, and all 3 seasons of the warm summer or hot summer, warm winter, warm spring, and a cold winter. If you want to enjoy all the seasons, you must have a combination of Eastern science and Western science. East is East, West is West, but when they combine together, they are the best. So let us take the best from both, and for future science progress, let's take the best from both the East and the West. Let us not have this holier than thou attitude towards the Eastern science. Eastern science is also good, and mostly the research, longitudinal research studies in Indian studies, very, very good. Thank you very much. My time is up. Now I am available for questions for the next 10 minutes if you want to ask me questions.
Should our food habits be altered based on the geographical location, like in India versus in North America? Right, the weather is so different, and even in India we have so many different food patterns that you see depending on the climate.
No, the weather doesn't matter. Weather doesn't matter as long as you can tolerate that. You better stick to your old Indian habits rather than change them just because you are in this country.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? The root of all the medicines, they go to the southern part of India, and Siddha has a role in the origin of all medicines. So if you look at like in the southern Kerala or Tamil Nadu, we can see the the development of science there, like so much intensive into culture. But so what do you think has happened in the evolution process that we are not, Siddha is not really known by anybody, even in India, except for Tamil Nadu or Kerala?
You must remember that anything becomes popular with some help from the government, support from the government. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. You can practice acupuncture in New York legally, but you can't practice Ayurveda in New York legally because acupuncture was supported by the Chinese government and the government supported that. Ayurveda was not supported by the Indian government. As a matter of fact, even up to 70 years of independence, India did not have Indians ruling us. They had British-minded people ruling us. So they didn't support our systems. Only now, in the last 3-4 years, we have the government which is supporting our system. It's because Siddha was not supported by the government, Siddha was not popular. Siddha system, as you rightly said, is very, very good. And it's mainly in Tamil Nadu and Kerala that is known, especially in Tamil Nadu. And the center of Siddha's big evolution is Coimbatore, where a lot of people trying to sort of study Siddha, because most of the Siddha literature is in Tamil language. That's another problem. So it can't be universally known because people outside Tamil Nadu don't know the Tamil language. So if Siddha were to be in a common language which Indians understood, Siddha would have been much more popular. And if Siddha were promoted and pampered by government, it would have been much more popular than what it is today. These are the reasons.
Thank you.
One question for you, sir.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of holistic healing? Like in the next 20 years, what do you see? Like you've been researching quite a bit. You've put in a lot of years on this researchers. So what do you feel? What will happen? People will turn back from the modern science. Will they look at our ancient science? Is there a possibility? And how much probability you're thinking from your perspective in the next 20 years?
Let me analyze your question into 2 parts. Your first question is very good, which said, what do you think of the holistic medicine for the future? I think the future is for holistic medicine only. But next you came back and said, will they look into our things or Western things? No, that's not a correct thing. Holistic science does not have East-West relationship or East-West division. Holistic science is holistic science. And the future of medicine must be holistic, not reductionistic. And that's the only future. And I foresee all over the world, holistic science will prevail in the future, in the next. And that's called healing, timeless healing. And rightly so. There's a book which has just come out, I think in a month's time, it has just come out from Harvard, by Herbert Benson, called Timeless Healing. You see that? It's a beautiful book where he says the most important part of healing is faith. And this is another very important part that I was telling you, faith healing. You must first have faith in whatever you do. You must faith in the doctor. And that's called the placebo effect. When you have faith in the doctor, Herbert shows in his book how a lot of neurological things change in you and the healing starts. So faith is very important.
Thanks a lot. It's absolutely true. Like once we have the placebo effect, everything will work. Even our thoughts will work. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, doctors must be placebo doctors. But unfortunately, many of us are nocebo doctors. We create more anxiety in the patient.
That's true. Thank you, sir.